back with Jerry and Jordan. I am Jerry, and that's Jordan. What's going on, Jordan?
I am ready to go for this weekend. It's the moment of truth.
Moment of truth, indeed. It's nice to have one of our teams actually playing this weekend. I know. I mean, you've been a Rams fan a long time. You've seen well, just a couple years ago they were in the Super Bowl, but they've won one what 20 years ago. So it's
Yep.
it's nothing new to you necessarily, but it's definitely exciting. I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I became a Rams fan because of their success in the early 2000s. That's when I started really getting into football, and I loved watching The Greatest Show on Turf. I will say this is very odd, and this has nothing to do with anything, but I was moving into my new house today, and they left behind one thing, and I'm not even kidding. It was a picture of this portrait painting of a Bengal tiger. So I don't like that.
Oh,
And
that's
that
bad juju.
means I don't. Yeah, I was like, we gotta take that thing down now.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty heavy on the Rams. We're going to go over a lot of props that we like for that specific game. Well, I mean, for the NFL game. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of our recent successes and failures that we've had. Last time me and you talked, it was the right before the divisional round, and then
Mhm.
had a guest on for the conference championship, and then we were off last week. So, I mean, between then and now, I'm sure you've done a lot of betting. Any bigger hits or bigger losses that you've taken?
I had a little bit of a skid with the NBA overall. And it's one of those things this time of year, there's a lot changing. We just had the trade deadline, a
Mhm.
lot of moving pieces. And this year, more than any, I mean, I can't remember an NBA trade deadline where there was more just monstrous deals. I mean, legitimate superstars and huge all-star caliber players being traded all around. So, it's kind of that time of year where some teams are ready to just head into the all-star break. The all-star break's coming up here. So, yeah, it's I find it to be a more challenging time. So, yeah, in the NBA, I was up. I think my pick percentage the last time we talked was around 62%, which is really good. It's been more hovering around 50%, which you kind of need to hit that 53% to be consistently profitable. So it's definitely been up and down. I've been struggling a little more with the over unders, trying to really pinpoint the best strategy for getting that right on a daily basis. And you and I were kind of messaging about it the one night, but some of these spreads, man, it comes down to like the last bucket at the last
Yeah.
second, very frequently in the NBA, which is very odd to me because I've never seen so many over unders come so close on a daily basis. So, it's for me, I always take the long approach with betting. So there's going to be weeks and periods of time that are weaker than others. I did pretty well for the championship round of the NFL. I predicted both games I mean, I had a lot of money on the Bengals side, and not for them winning straight up, but I took the points. So I did well with the conference championship, but I'm kind of interested to see how the rest of the NBA season shakes out, see how these trades impact things. That's one thing you're definitely going to have to keep an eye out on. Ben Simmons ends up returning soon. That makes a huge defensive impact for the Nets. Um, the Kings were a terrible defensive team already, and then they just lost their best defender, arguably, and Tyrese Halliburton. So, it'll be interesting to monitor some of those trends and how the dynamic of some of these teams changes moving forward.
Yeah, those trades yesterday were not just yesterday, but this past week have been crazy. Players are already getting acclimated with their new roles and their new teams. Halliburton had a decent game tonight, not nothing crazy. I forgot who it was, the big center that you can never count out for rebounds because I didn't want to bet. I just talked to you about him the other day, but
Oh,
I didn't want to
Sabonis,
bet on
yeah.
him. Yes. Didn't want to bet on him because he was new to the team, but I mean, it's just like one of those you can't bet against him when it comes to rebounds, and he's already fitting in pretty well with his new team. I've been kind of up and down as well. I've don't really bet too much hockey, even though I do talk about it. The one I've just been having a bad streak with that. It's just so unpredictable and so hard. It's like the worst teams, you could take their goal and a half and they'll still lose by 4. The best teams, you could take the goal and a half spread and they'll lose by 1 or go to overtime or
Yeah.
something. So it's just so hard with that sport. I tried to do something a little different last night. Try to pick a 5 or 6 player parlay of everybody hitting over half a point. You could pick 1 player per game. So I picked like the bigger guys like your Stamkoses and Nikita Kucherovs. Their line was at a point and a half. So I went with a different player to keep it at half a point. So all they had to do is just get all you got to do is accidentally get an assist, and it'll count. And that I went 50% on that. So unfortunately, 50% on a parlay is winning nothing. But it's just little trying little things to see if you could try to find like a pattern or something. But I've won some. I actually won a nice college parlay the other day for
Mhm.
115 bucks, so that was pretty nice. And tonight it's back down again because who was it? The Heat? No, not the Heat. Yeah, the Heat. The Heat lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Heat is the team that kinda screwed my parlay up today, so, been up and down, I mean, but that's just how it's gonna go in the betting world. You gotta kinda just pick your battles, but, um,
You've been
let's
into
get
those
into
rebound parlays recently.
yeah, I mixed it up tonight, actually, so instead of doing all rebounds, 'cause I did one with all points the other day, I did one with all
Mhm.
rebounds, I kinda mixed it up and just kinda try to take just some favorable bets, but, I mean Embiid, I took his points instead of his rebounds. He ended up having like 20 rebounds, which I should have took his rebounds, but I took his points instead, which was 31 and a half, and he only hit 25. Trey Young hit what I needed from him. I took the assists on him. Who else? I took the rebounds for I forgot. I hit about again, I hit about half tonight. But it's still like you don't hit enough and or you don't hit them all, you're not going to win anything. But so I'm just like I
Mhm.
said, kind of just playing around with that. The rebound ones are pretty nice though, unless like the rebounds are astronomical. Like you need 13 and a half from a guy who averages 10. Those are tough. Let's talk about some of the NHL and NBA games that we like this weekend before we get into the Super Bowl. But I got about 4 NHL games that I like. If you got if you want to start out with an NBA one, you could do that.
Sure. So let's go to Saturday, which one of the games that I'm kind of interested in looking at is the Pelicans versus Spurs. The Pelicans are at home. Want to see what that spread comes out to be. But the Spurs are in full rebuild mode right now. They're gonna be coming off a back-to-back. They actually beat the Hawks tonight, which was kind of good for them. The Hawks have been hot recently. The Spurs coming off of dealing a lot of big players. It was a little surprising to see them come out that hot. But the Pelicans have kind of been on fire. The Spurs, I mean, I'd imagine, I won't say sputtering. I think they're going to start playing a lot of these younger guys, and they're really starting to build towards the next phase. So I like the Pelicans at home against the Spurs. I'd be willing, if that spread comes out to be somewhere between 5, 6, 7, I think I'd be willing to take the points with the Pelicans too.
All right, yeah, Pelicans at home. That game is tomorrow night. Um, I haven't really looked a lot into the NBA. I usually do my NBA day of. It looks like it is a pretty full slate tomorrow. Getting into
Mhm.
the NHL though, I think not that I think I'm pretty sure the last time that me and you talked because I mentioned it the last time that I was on right before the conference championships, but the last time that me and you talked, I think the Montreal Canadiens only had 8 wins. Do you want to guess how many wins they have right now?
Let's see, how many 3 weeks ago? 12.
Nope, they're at 8 wins. They have not won a game since.
Oh
So,
gosh. So it's
the
your
one
fault is what you're saying.
so one of the games that I like I actually have Montreal on here twice. They play back to back. They play tomorrow
Oh
and they play
no.
Sunday. Hopefully they don't win any of them, but, I got the Columbus Blue Jackets over the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, Columbus has kinda been on the better side as of late. Montreal, like I said, they haven't won a game in more than 3 weeks. They I Again, it's tough taking the 1.5 goal line. It's one of those things where you could get lucky with an empty net goal, and it'll make it 2 goals or even 3 goals, depending on what the score is towards the end of the game. But if you want to parlay it with something and take the money line, that might be the way to go. If you wanna put a little bit more money in your pocket, then take the 1.5 goal line. But I definitely like the Columbus Blue Jackets over the Canadians. The Canadians they're just absolutely the worst team in the league, and it's hard to see when they're going to win another game.
Oh, that makes me really sad, but okay. Um, let's go to another game tomorrow in the NBA. We have the Kings and Wizards. I mentioned the Kings earlier with a lot of new faces there. Sabonis leading the way. I mean, I personally, a lot of people were bashing that move. I love Sabonis. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. He offers a lot of versatility offensively. Defensively is a whole different question, but that's okay. They play the Wizards on the road tomorrow. The Wizards have been absolutely sputtering recently. They were one of the NBA's early success stories. They were towards the top half of the conference for most of the first part of the season, but they've been 2-8 their last 10 games, so really struggling. And the Kings have been, not great. They've looked pretty decent their first game with Sabonis. I think I like the Sabonis De'Aaron Fox pairing personally. I expect them to take advantage of a Wizards team that's kind of sputtering right now. So with the Wizards at home, I'm really interested to see what the spread's going to be because theoretically the Wizards' record's better on the year. The Kings aren't great on the road. But so if the Wizards are favored, I think I'd take the Kings with the points. So I think that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye out on. Just in general, well, I'll talk about it next, but that'll be my one for now.
All right, so building up the anticipation.
Yeah.
My next
Stay
game,
tuned.
my next game is going to be also on Saturday. I got the Blues over the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are another one of those. They're not. I mean, they won their last game, but they're not what they were back in the mid 2010s, where they were just dominating and just making their way through the Western Conference playoffs and making it to the finals. That team, they're a shell of themselves. They're I saw it was a fan made reporter what they want to do, but like it was trade away Jonathan Tays, trade away Patrick Kane, and just go completely blow the team up and just rebuild. I mean, and that's kind of the point that they're at right now because I mean those two make a lot of money. They're kind of, I wouldn't call them over the hill, but they're towards the end of their career more than they are at the beginning of their career, and it's just one of those teams where it's they just don't have it really anymore. They're second last in their division. This is a divisional game. St. Louis is kind of on the opposite end of them where they are. I mean, they just won the cup a couple years ago. They're looking a lot better lately. I'm really nervous to take any kind of goal line, so I'm taking the money line in this one. I might pair that one with the Columbus game, do a 2 game parlay for that. But I got the Blues over the Blackhawks.
All right, all right. So yeah, what I was gonna say before was, first of all, I'm just interested. The Nets' next game is on Monday against the Kings, so I think that's just an interesting game in general. The Nets are on a 10-game losing streak, which I don't think is getting enough press right now. I mean, it's just bizarre that a team that was put together with that much talent has been that terrible. They're at home. They're 12 and 14 at home this year, 17 and 12 on the road, which is kind of interesting. So I'm keeping an eye out on that spread. That's not until Monday, that Nets Kings game. But that's beyond this weekend. So I'm going to talk about another one anyway. Um, the Celtics and Hawks, who I believe that's a Sunday game. Celtics at home. They're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. The two hottest teams are probably them and the Raptors. The Raptors are on an 8-game winning streak. Celtics on a 7-game winning streak right now. Celtics, very one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference at home. The Hawks, bottom 6 in the league on the road. So it's kind of a perfect pairing of a lot of things coming together. The Hawks have been, I mean, they've been solid 6-4 over their last 10, but between their struggles on the road, the Celtics on a hot streak right now. I'm not the kind of guy that necessarily is going to bet on a hot streak coming to an end. Of course, it's going to end eventually, but when things kind of align this way, a hot team versus a team that's, I don't want to say cooling down, but 2 weeks ago they were one of the hottest teams in the league, and they haven't been that over the last week or so. So I think a lot of things align for the Celtics to have a pretty big game against the Hawks.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a good game. A lot of star power in that game. I might go and do a single game parlay with that one, just with all the players that could potentially put up points and rebounds in that one. I've been doing a lot of that too. I don't know why I didn't talk about that in the successes and failures, but I've been doing a lot of like taking the bigger over unders and doing single game parlays with them. And I've been kind of half and half with those. It's always missing by one prop, but it's one of those things where like a steal or like trying to predict a steal or trying to predict a block, those are the two that kill you.
That's a
Like
lottery ticket.
it's easy to get close. Not easy, but it's like it's more realistic to get close to what a player is going to do for rebounds and points and assists. But or even if somebody's going to get a double double, like Chris Paul has been hitting double doubles like crazy. But to get like one block or one steal to ruin your whole parlay, that just hurts. Um, or to not get them, I should say. On Sunday, I got the Montreal Canadiens finally winning a point spread.
What?
I'm going to take. They're not
Oh,
going to win. Well, I don't know if they're going to win, but I got them covering the spread against the Sabers. For as bad as Montreal is, the Sabers are just slightly a little bit better, but equally as bad. They're rough all the way around. I think we've talked about them a few times on this show. If it wasn't with you, it was the last show that we did. But I think it kind of goes against some things that I've said before with teams playing on their back to back. So this would be the back to back for Montreal. Buffalo doesn't play on Saturday, but it's going to be one of those. I think the game is going to be really close. I think it's going to be a one goal game. So you're covering the spread with the 1.5 for Montreal, or um, or they're just straight up winning. So I mean that's how I think it's going to go. I don't think if Buffalo wins, I don't think it's going to be by more than a goal. So I'm taking Montreal with the 1.5 goals there. If they're the underdogs, which I'm going to say that they are. I don't see, I mean I don't see them being favored over Buffalo. If it is the other way around though, where Buffalo is the underdog, then I would probably take them with the goal and a half.
okay. I went over all my NBA ones, so if you have any other NHL ones, feel free.
It's a shorter weekend. I mean, tomorrow has some games on both for both sports, but Sunday they kind of all. I think there's six total games, four in the NHL and two in the NBA, and they're all early. They all want to end before the Super Bowl starts. So um, the only other one that I had was I like the Capitals over the Senators on Sunday. I think I mean, Capitals are one of the hotter teams too. They got a powerful offense. Senators, I don't want to say that they've been hot, but the last couple of games, they've been around the 4 goal mark, except for I believe it was last night that they lost. But the 2 games before that, they scored 4 goals and won. But I got the Capitals. If you want to take the goal and a half, take it. If not, like I said, the money line, maybe parlay it with another game. You could do a multi-sport parlay it with a couple of Jordan's NBA games if you want, but Capitals covering the 1.5 goal line there. And
All right.
then we are on to the National Football League, the
Never
Super
heard of it.
Bowl, the Dr. Dre and Eminem concert where a football game breaks out. Are you excited about that? By the way, are you excited to see them?
I mean, that's my kind of music personally, so I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think I'm interested to just see how the performance itself is with so many different acts there. Are they all gonna how they're gonna share the time? I think is interesting to me because I mean we've never seen that many stars all in one Super Bowl. We've seen where like Shakira and J Lo were together, so we've seen a pair before, but to have five pretty big names is kind of unique. So I'm interested to see how they share the time together. I've also, if you've ever been to a rap concert, they're kind of weird sometimes where there's just like a billion people on stage and you don't know what's going on. So I hope
Yeah.
that's not what happens here, but I have a feeling that's exactly what's going to happen here. So I know a lot of people are down on it, but I don't know. I still think it's a little weird because I thought they were going to go with the all LA theme, but then you throw like Eminem and Mary J. Blige into the mix, and I'm like, all right, you lost me. because I think it would have been really cool if they could have found a way to make it all LA, California acts.
It's gonna be fun. They brought in
Are you
Eminem
gonna
for.
place any bets on it? Is there any lines out there for like how long Dr. Dre is gonna be rapping for?
I actually haven't seen anything, and I was looking through the Super Bowl specials and any of the promotions. I have not seen anything. We'll have to see Sunday morning what they do, and
Was
I
there
know
any
they got.
national anthem lines out? Yeah, I don't know who's singing the national anthem yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. I wanted to get a nice prop bet sheet, but I couldn't find a good one. I'm in one with a guy at work. I filled it out today. I really didn't like the props on it, so I didn't want to bring that one up. But usually, like the morning of, we'll print it up and bring it to our Super Bowl party. But this year, it just seems weird and different this year, doesn't it? It just I don't know. It's
I
especially with
mean,
the last
something sketchy is going on.
3 years, I've had to work on Super Bowl Sunday. I got to work this Sunday too. I get out at 7 p.m. Game starts at 6:30, 6:40. So I'm going to miss a little bit of the game, but it's just I can't get super into it because I know I'm not going to be able to just sit around and eat pizza and drink all day. I gotta work and then go catch the game late.
I was like, you could
Do
do that, but
doing all my bets at while I'm at work on break.
yeah, that's why you get paid.
All right, so getting into the game, of course, you got the LA Rams up against the Cincinnati Bengals. The line has been kind of stagnant all week. I don't
Yeah.
remember what it opened up at, but it hasn't moved off that four. Rams are favored by four, which I like. I mean, if it's not going to be a half point, I like where it's not a field goal. I want them to either I want it to be more than a touch or less than what a touchdown would be, or less than a field goal, like 2.5 or something. So four is reasonable. Over under is 48.5. I like it. So just off the top, I like the Rams to cover. I like them in like a 28-21 type game, which would put them at about 49 points, which covers the spread, which covers the over under too, covers the spread, covers the over under. I think it's going to be I mean, there's really only three outcomes, but I think it could go one of two ways. The Rams win big, or the Bengals win like last second field goal or something like that, or it's really, really close to the end. And I think that, I mean, Rams winning by 7, I guess, isn't as big as what it could be, but I like the Rams covering the 4 over 48.5 and winning 28-21.
Yeah, this is tough for me. I don't love that spread personally for the Rams. I think there's a few things. The Bengals have covered the point spread for 7 straight games now. So I think that's really dangerous. The one thing that worries me the most in this game is the Rams have been playing. I mean, they've gotten some publicity because they've had their last minute drives and they've won, but the reason they've had to have those drives is because they've been playing terribly in the fourth quarter. I mean, we saw the almost collapse against the Bucks. They had to come back in the 49ers game, but on the whole, they have not been a great fourth quarter team. I don't know what it is, but the last 5 or 6 weeks, they seem very gassed to me at the end of games. The Bengals, I don't. I think they wake up in the fourth quarter. They don't always play the first three, so that worries me a little bit. This is the kind of game where I think it's gonna be close, because both of the. I mean, Matthew Stafford's fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives have been well documented over this last week. Oh, now he's getting the press about it, but and Joe Burrow is kind of getting that reputation for coming back from behind. So either way, let's even say the Rams are up 14 going into the fourth. I mean, I think that's just the Bengals come back. I think
Yeah.
that's the way this game is set up, and I don't think you can count anyone out of this game. So I do think I like the Rams to win, but I don't see them covering the 4. I personally am going to take the Bengals with the points, which is kind of painful to say out loud. And if they end up winning by a ton, at the same time, though, I really do like the matchup for the Rams, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Rams fan, but the Rams tend to really thrive against teams with weak offensive lines. I mean, that's one of the strengths of their team. And I think the Titans showed the formula on how to beat the Bengals. They just couldn't score. I mean, they absolutely ate up Joe Burrow, and I can't see the Rams offense struggling like the Titans offense did in that game. So, I mean, if the Rams defensive line gets to Joe Burrow for 9 sacks like the Titans do or did, I don't think that this would be a close game at all. But the thing about it's been one of those seasons for the Bengals where I just think counting them out and expecting them to roll over and lose by a ton, I just can't see it happening. I could see them being down by 21 in the fourth quarter and them scoring, 17 points or so and making it at least a close game. So the over under is tougher for me in this one. I'm actually leaning on the under a little bit. And part of the reason for that too is I was pretty impressed with what the Bengals did defensively. And I think if they carry some of that momentum, not that they're going to stop the Rams and the Rams are going to score 3 points in the Super Bowl again, but I think that the Bengals defense, for whatever reason, has really stepped up this season against big offenses, which I talked about that a few episodes ago, where I don't know what it is, but the first time they played Mahomes, they kind of kept him in check. They kept him in check again in the second half in the championship game there. So, yeah, I think that, it's the kind of game that I could see being like 24-21. That's personally what I have, which is just on the under there. And I think it's going to be a really close one possession game. So that four, and that's kind of the point of a spread is they set it so you have to kind of think about it and really make that decision. And I can see why it's set at four right now because it's really testing how much faith you have in the Rams. But like I just mentioned it with the NBA, I'm not going to bet against a hot team, so I'm not picking the Bengals to win. But they've covering in 7 straight games. I mean, not to say that's unheard of. It's just they love that underdog role and they really thrive in it. So I like the Bengals with the points.
It's. I mean, I think that one thing's for certain is going to be a good game. It's going to be a great game. Hopefully, the Rams don't fall off 3 points, but it's definitely going to be a. You got offensive firepower all over. You got defenses that. I mean, the Bengals just came out of nowhere. The Rams. We kind of went into the season thinking that the Rams were going to have a good defense, and they have. I mean, the Rams were one of the top 5 to 10 drafted defenses in fantasy if you
Mhm.
play in a DST league. So, um, it's just they. It's gonna be great. I know a lot of the football world is happy that it's not Mahomes, it's not Brady, but it's just overall it's gonna be a good game or a
Like I
great
said,
game.
I want to see the Bengals succeed long term just because I want to see if people turn on Joe Burrow. Like I said, I think people hate success, so let's see how much they like him if he's in 4 straight conference championship games. I think that'll be fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, it's the first time I remember Super Bowl happening in a while where people, I don't want to say, yeah, I mean, I'll say it. They don't really care either way. I'd say the majority of people that are watching it, you're not rooting against Brady. You're not rooting for X, Y, and Z. It's because you could go both ways. A lot of people like Joe Burrow. I'm not a big Joe Burrow fan. He's getting on my nerves already, but
Already.
um, hasn't even been that long. But Stafford, a lot of people are rooting for him. People like Von Miller. For some reason, people really like Odell Beckham. I don't know why, but so I mean, there's a lot to root for on both
There's not
sides.
much to really dislike on either team. I mean, you really don't
No,
have I mean, there's Browns fans or whatever don't really like Odell. But then do they root for their division rival? It's one of those things where like they're kind of that's probably this is the worst game for a Browns fan. You're either rooting for Odell or
yeah,
you're rooting for the Bengals.
yeah, screw
But like
that.
I mean, Vaughn is loved. Ramsey kind of has a little bit of an attitude, but even then, like I don't if you watch Hard Knocks where it was the Rams, I can't remember if it was last year. It had to have been last year because Ramsey hasn't been there that long, right? I mean, he's like just he might seem like he's a little bit of a douche on the field and like but he could back up his play, so that's and off the field though he's a great guy from what you've seen in Hard Knocks. I mean, I've never talked to him, but he's definitely there's really not much to dislike about either team. If you don't like the cockiness of Burrow, I've been seeing a lot of people say that, but I mean, he's a starting quarterback in the league that's in the Super Bowl in his in his second year. So I mean, it's you got to be cocky, you know. Um, let's get into some props that we like. One of these actually changed for the better. I think it originally was 26 and a half, but now it's 24 and a half. And that's the over for receiving yards for Joe Mixon. He's hit that number in 5 straight games. That's probably my favorite prop out of all of them. I don't see either team really running the ball too much. Maybe a few big runs here and there. Mixon, he always has the ability to break a 15, 20-yard gain. And Akers, we kind of saw really good Akers in the first game, and then a not great Akers in the next one. They just activated Darrell Henderson, so it's kind of hard to pick
Hmm.
an Akers prop. Sony Michelle is still there lingering around, and I know Caesars has a boost with having Tyler Boyd and Sony Michelle both scoring a touchdown. So not that Caesars knows anything, but they're just kind of throwing his name out there, and it's like, all right, well now we got 3 running backs on the Rams to worry about. But Joe Mixon, he hit 20 he hit over 24 and a half receiving yards in 5 straight games. That's the line right now. Like I said, it was 26 and a half. I actually have a bet for 26 and a half. I should have waited, but I'm smashing that, throwing maybe 25, $50 on that, just as a single bet over 24 and a half receiving yards.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. I love betting on running back receiving yard props because typically the lines are lower, which just makes it easier to hit if we're being honest about it. I mean, he could have one 30-yard reception and you're good to go. I mean, you don't need anything else. So I'm always a big fan of those receiving ones. I think Joe Mixon receiving yards was one of my locks a few weeks ago. So I do like that one. I actually do like the rushing yards for Joe Mixon, which it's moved the last few times. I think it's at 60 or 61 now. I personally like the over for that one just because I think the Rams' defensive line is going to be able to get to Burrow. Their run defense has been up and down. It's been very inconsistent this entire season. So I think if the Bengals want to keep the Rams defense on their toes, I think they're going to have to stay committed to the run. And I think you're going to see Mixon get a good number of touches coming out of the backfield. So 60, right in that range, is not an unreasonable number. So, I'm probably honestly going to parlay his rushing and receiving yards as a little two-legger there. So that is one that I like.
All right. Another one I like is, if you haven't heard the news or anything, Tyler Higbee is going to be missing this game.
Mm.
And the Rams, especially Matt Stafford, he really likes throwing to the tight end. So and Kendall Blanton's over for receiving
Yeah.
yards is 29 and a half. Um, just I got some numbers here for what the hell's his name? For Tyler Higbee. He went out kind of early last week. Or not last week, but in the conference championship. But in the playoffs so far, he's got 3 receptions on 46 yards on 3 receptions, 4 targets, and 51 yards on 7 targets for 4 receptions against Tampa. So Arizona was the first one, Tampa was the next one. And after Higbee went out last week, Blanton kind of got. I mean, we've already seen Blanton start and finish a game and score a touchdown too. He scored against Tampa Bay, but um, he was thrust into a starting role when Higbee was out a couple weeks ago in the regular season. But even after Higbee left last week, 5 receptions on 5 targets for 57 yards. So I mean, all of those numbers are well over the 29 and a half that they're giving him between the tight ends. So just, I mean, and they really don't have a lot of other tight ends on the roster that's going to be catching the ball. Obviously, you got Odell and Cooper Cup and Akers out of the backfield, but 30 yards, I mean, that's 2 catches, 2 15-yard catches, moving the chains. 29 and a half is nothing for a tight end, and especially for a guy like Matt Stafford who's going to throw 40 times. A couple are going to go to Blanton's way.
Yeah, no, I like that one. Like I said, I'm a big fan of some of those ones that are just lower. Because, I mean, like you said, how many catches do you realistically need to hit that number? I mean, if I told you that Kendall Blanton finished that game with 3 catches for 30 yards, are you going to go, "Pfft, no way that's happening?" No, I mean, it's very reasonable and it's easily attainable. So I agree with you. I like ones like that. I'm gonna go kind of in a different direction. I'm gonna talk about some of the MVP odds.
Mhm.
There's two that kind of stick out to me, and it depends where you look. The first one is Cooper Cup, and I know, okay, it seems like an obvious one, but his odds right now are plus 600 to win MVP. And I just think that that offers a lot of value there because Stafford leads away right now at around plus 100. And honestly, to me, if Stafford has a huge game, it's going to be because Cooper Cup absolutely blows up. So I'd rather take the
And it'll
plus
be Blanton's 30
600
yards. Blanton's 30
and
yards is gonna
his
help
30
Stafford.
yards. He's going to have a game winning 30-yard touchdown with no time remaining, and that's going to be his only catch of the night. I mean, but hey, it all pays the same. But yeah, so to me, I think it's kind of silly to place 100 or a plus 100 bet on Stafford when I think there's a lot more value at plus 600 for Cooper Cup. The other one, which a lot of people I've seen say, but I mean, it's just the truth, is Aaron Donald's MVP odds are plus 1600 right now. I mean, that is a really nice return. Like I said, Jeffrey Simmons just a few weeks ago for the Titans, who is potentially the second best interior lineman behind Donald in the league,
Mhm.
had 3 sacks against this very offensive line. If I told you Aaron Donald had 3 sacks and Joe Burrow was, left home crying at the end of the game, I don't think anybody would be that surprised. So at plus 1600, I mean, I like those odds. It seems like a long shot just because of those odds, but um, I like the value of both of those.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off of those, I mean, we've seen Von Miller win an MVP, in
Hmm.
the Carolina-Denver game. So, and we've also just at the time that we're recording this, the NFL awards were yesterday. Cooper Cup walked away with the Offensive Player of the Year. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers won the MVP, but Cooper Cup, I mean, it's they are looking at non-quarterbacks.
Hmm.
And we just had a wide receiver win it the last Patriots Super Bowl. Was it the last one? But it was Edelman. Whenever he
Yeah.
won it not too long ago. They've won so many that I don't know which one it was. But Edelman won the MVP not too long ago. But then on the other side, I mean, the year that against Atlanta, James White probably should have won the MVP, but they gave it to Brady. So sometimes the quarterbacks just get favored a little bit more. Um, I mean, it's in a game that I see a lot of offense. It's really hard to like. I just don't want to say go out and smash every single offensive prop. But Chase over 78.5 yards, I think that's definitely attainable. Odell over 63.5 yards, that's definitely attainable. If you want, let me pull up the numbers real quick. If you got another one, um, bring them up so we don't have any dead space. But let me just bring up Chase and Odell
Yeah, I
here.
mean, I'll build off of that too. The T Higgins line has been moving up and down. Obviously, T Higgins has been very hot. I'm kind of interested to see what happens with Jalen Ramsey versus Jamar Chase. I know the narrative is that Jalen Ramsey is going to follow Jamar Chase around. Even if he does do that, I mean, Jalen Ramsey does give up big plays every once in a while. We saw it happen with Mike Evans just 2 weeks ago, or well, whatever, 3 weeks ago now it was. So it can happen, but this is the kind of game where I think the Rams might have Jalen Ramsey shadow Jamar Chase. And if that happens, obviously that's going to leave a lot of opportunities for T. Higgins, for Tyler Boyd, for that matter, too, whose line is also. If I was going to pick a receiving over under I like the most, probably Tyler Boyd, if we're being honest about it. The Rams
42.5
secondary,
for
not
him.
42 and a half. Yeah. I mean, that's the most value to me. Um, the Rams, and I've talked about this before, but especially after Jordan Fuller went out in the last regular season game, their secondary after Jalen Ramsey is very suspect. So one of those secondary targets for the Bengals is going to step up. I could see them trying to scheme it to try to slow down Higgins because he's a threat, and I think that leaves a lot of opportunities for Tyler Boyd. So yeah, I mean Tyler Boyd is one that's probably my favorite receiving one. Once again, I'll take the low hanging fruit a little bit. It's a lower line. I don't want to. The only thing that worries me about that Jamar Chase line is if Ramsey really does shadow him and he's at the top of his game. I mean, you could see Jamar Chase with, I don't want to say a dud because he just has too much talent to say, yeah, that guy's gonna have a dud. But it's at least a possibility, and you have to recognize that. So I like the Tyler Boyd 42.5.
Yeah, that's I might dabble a little bit with the Tyler Boyd. The one that I don't like, and we haven't talked about is and it kind of goes against your MVP, but Cooper Cup is like 103 and a half. Which in order for him to win MVP, he probably has to hit that, and maybe a
Oh yeah.
touchdown or two. But I mean, for as far as Chase and Odell goes, Odell hit his mark the last two games. Chase, unfortunately, didn't hit his mark against Kansas City, but he hit it the two previous games. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, he his average reception was a lot lower than what his normal average reception was. So I mean, even if he hits his average last game, he hits that mark that he needs. He only went 9 yards a reception last game, so still ended up with 54 yards. But that's just not a normal Jamar Chase game. So kind of look at it like that, where okay, if he's closer to 12, 13, like he does, then he's closer to the yardage that they're giving him. So that's definitely a prop that I like with the over on the yardage for him. Do you like any of the receptions for any of these players? Chase, Odell, and Higgins are all 5.5. Tyler Boyd is 4.5. Any of them kind of stick out to you, or and then Cooper Cup's 8.5.
Yeah, I mean the Cooper Cup in general, I always struggle with those really, really high over-unders for receiving totals. I think that one's super reasonable if we're being honest about it. He's only played the Bengals once in his career, and he had his biggest game. It was like 200 and I don't, it was like 230 something yards, I believe. So he had a huge game against the Bengals, and I don't know who in their secondary is going to cover him. So I think it's
Eli
very
Apple.
possible. I hope so. I mean, then I'm putting all every dollar I have in my bank account on him winning MVP. So, yeah, I mean, if once again, I'll probably double up. I like doing some of those single player parlays. So, like the Joe Mixon pairing up rushing and receiving. I'll probably pair up Tyler Boyd. I think 4.5. Once again, it's just a reasonable number. And I'd expect him to be targeted 7 or 8 times. So 5 receptions is right in that range. I don't know how tempted I am by the other ones. I think if I was gonna go after one, I think it would be Tyler Boyd once again. Beckham, I could also see just because he was heavily targeted in the conference championship, and they've been trying to get him more involved. And really, the game plan recently has been let's get Odell involved, and then let's get some more focus on him. And then people are like, oh dang, like Cooper Cup's still there, and then he explodes in the second half, which has happened a few times. So at my two, I would pick Beckham and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, Beckham, he's hit over 5.5 the last two games too. So his yardage and his yardage and his receptions is definitely pretty attainable. The one I saw people talking, or it's like been on podcast too, but I saw people talking about the opening kickoff. Do you see that one? The bet for the opening kickoff, if it's a touchback or
Which
not.
one? Oh, no, I didn't see the touchback one. No.
Yeah, so there's an article out there, or a couple articles out there about the opening kickoff. Like what they do is, and the biggest thing is like if you bet the opening kickoff is not a touchback, um, that's what you want to bet because the ball that they use isn't like they don't really warm up or practice with that ball. It's just basically all it is used for the kickoff, and then it goes away to go into the Hall of Fame or to wherever it's going, right? Um, so like the last like 7 out of the last 8 Super Bowl, the opening kickoff were not touchbacks because the ball doesn't get off hit off the tee as well. It's not worked in. And also the excitement is there. Like you wanna start off the game right. You wanna take that ball and you wanna see what you can do the very first person touching the ball off the kickoff. So um,
Hmm,
that like that line, not a line, but like it's been kind of changing back and forth. But I think it was minus 110 for it not to be a touchback, which is
interesting.
throw some money on that and win a couple extra dollars that way. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like that just started circulating around the past couple days with the opening kickoff.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I haven't seen. Well, last time I looked on FanDuel, they didn't have any creative ones opened yet. I know one year I mean illegally, but I bet on the length of the national anthem, which I just think is a funny one. So things like that I think are cool.
And then couple that like I don't want to not I don't want to have any like dead space or whatever. So just off the top of my head, if you could put something like this together, I like Burrow and Stafford. If you want to parlay them together, both over a touchdown and a half, throw those in there. I kind of like. I mean, not that I like it, but like I think that both of them could throw a pick too. So like if there's something where you could parlay the touchdowns and like half an interception each, or if you don't want to get too risky, just throw half an interception on one of them. Um, do something like that, like a three-leg parlay with a touchdown and a half for Burrow, touchdown and a half for Stafford, and then half an interception for one of them. I like both of those. As Jordan mentioned too, like I don't know if you could parlay like picking Cooper Cup with an MVP and his receptions and his yardage and a touchdown, but that's another
Yeah.
one that if you could throw all four of those together, or even if you have to take the MVP off, throw the three of them together. It's 8.5 receptions, 103.5 yards, and then throw him in for like an anytime touchdown. Because if you're on the side that you think he's going to be the MVP, you got to think like that's kind of a stat line that he's probably
Yeah.
going to need to have. So
Yep.
put something like that together, and of course, no matter what app and site that you use, whether it's DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, any of those, you are there's going to be promotions and there's going to be specials. So if you're like, they'll have ones that are already put together. Like for example, um, they got one that is Cam Akers to score the first touchdown and Joe Mixon to score the second touchdown, and that pays 5,500 plus
Oh
5,500.
dang.
Or they
Yeah.
got more reasonable ones where it says Stafford to throw a touch or Stafford to throw 300 yards, Odell to score a touchdown, and Odell to have over 65 yards. So something like
Hmm.
that. I mean, you could go and create that yourself, or you can check to see if there's any boosts on them and see if they have anything like that. But I think we covered a lot. It's not really much that you can, with it only being one game, you can't talk
Yeah.
too much about it. I mean, unfortunately, not every single player can score and have Madden style numbers,
I
so
mean they
you kind
could.
of just gotta kind of just got to go over the game script in your head and think how you think it's going to play out. Hopefully, it's not a 13-3 game like it was the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl. Those
It
suckers.
won't be, I promise.
But yeah, unless you have anything else,
No, kind of going along those lines, just one more I'd throw in there is a guy like Joe Mixon you could parlay to with, and I know no one's, I don't think I've heard once anyone mention Joe Mixon and Super Bowl MVP in the same sentence. But I mean, if we're being honest about it, if the line is able to get the Burrow, the Bengals' only chance to win, and it's not their only chance, but their best chance to win could be just let's run Joe Mixon, dump off some screens to him, get him an open field. So, his MVP odds are one of the lowest among all the big position players. Even Odell's at plus 2,000, and then you have Mixon all the way down at plus 3,500. So I think there's some value actually there with Joe Mixon's MVP odds. So once again, you parlay Joe Mixon's MVP odds with 60 rushing yards and a touchdown, let's say, because if he wins MVP, you'd think that he's going to have much more than that. I think that there could be something to something like that as well.
all right. And then last thing, there's no there's no odds for it because I think they're just kind of waiting to see if he's officially in or officially out. But CJ Azoma, he's been one of Joe Burrow's favorite targets as well. If
Yeah,
Ramsey's out there shutting down Jamar Chase and
he's won me some money.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he's been getting targeted like crazy. I mean, for a tight end too. Like, so I don't imagine his targets are going to be or his receptions is going to be anything more than like 4.5 or whatever. But if they throw him on there for 4.5, take it. If they throw him on there for over like 35 yards, take it. Those are definitely numbers that he can and most likely will hit if he's playing and playing the whole game. Um, he's been 7 of 8 for 71, 6 of 6 for 61, 4 of 6 for 32, 5 of 7 for 36. So he's just been the last 4 games outside of Kansas City because he got hurt. He's just been pretty reliable for Burrow. Scored a touchdown in that time. if you want to throw them on there for an anytime touchdown. The tight ends are like who I like for the first touchdown of the game. It's not like any kind of history behind it. It's not necessarily that they're the ones that do score the first touchdown, but they just give you the better odds of them. So if you're throwing like $5, $10 at a first touchdown, CJ Uzoma, Kendall Blanton, they're going to pay a lot more than picking Jamar Chase and Cooper Cup.
Oh
So
yeah.
throw a couple bucks at them. I mean, it's the last game before next year. Work some overtime over the summer, and then rebuild your rebuild your sports book with some money next year. But just throw everything that you got this year at the Super Bowl and try to double it up or whatever. But that's all we got for today. Jordan, glad to have you back this time around. Even though your fill in last week was probably way better than you. We are now on the every other week schedule, so we're not going to be back next week. We will be back in 2 weeks, and then it's strictly basically hockey and basketball, and hopefully we could talk about the USFL or something, and maybe we'll get into some other sports like golf. Golf is going on all summer long, and you could pick like the winner and stuff like that for on different sports books. So if you don't have anything else, I think we're all set.
I think that's it. I'm ready. Go Rams.
All right, go Bengals. See you guys.